Joining us now is Jonny von Wallström, the director of the Pearl of Africa.
Okay, so we are live. Let me see. That's better. Okay, first Q&A of 2018. How awesome. I just need to get things in control. Stream status good, it seems. Let me see, and I got the chat up. So, hope your year is starting off great and it ended great. Mine did so. I actually got sick at the end of the year. Having kids can suck, even though it's really amazing. It can suck because you get all the diseases that they get. So that's how I ended my year. Now, new year, fresh, should be back in no time to training and all that. I actually thought that I would start this Q&A off by talking about like this year and past year and this new year. And that's both because I wanted to take the opportunity to just talk about what we did last year and how we're thinking of the next year. And I wanted to do that as quick as possible this year. So this year is starting off really great, I think, because we're gonna start the year with a web series. But first, let's just talk about the last year. Actually, 2016, we had focused this channel on like creative north, creative people and stories around like creatives. And then we kind of pivoted during the last year, 2017. We pivoted towards doing more content around what we do, taking you behind the scenes, and then also doing like tutorials and Q&As and all that stuff at the end of the year. But it was really a hard-working year for us where we didn't do much publicity and that sort of thing, because the year before that, the Pearl of Africa actually had its premiere outside of, you know, the TV and VOD on Netflix. So we actually had our like release and premiere in 2016. But then in 2017 was actually the year that it was released. We didn't do that much press, even though we could have. We just stayed, you know, in the background pretty much, focused on the next film and focused on building this channel. So what we've done in 2017 is basically focusing on building for this year, building for this and next year, I'd say. So we've focused on reworking a portfolio because we want bigger international clients doing advertising. But we also want to work with brands doing this type of storytelling that we do on this channel. So documentary shorts together with brands. And that's probably going to start happening this year, but it's probably way down the line that it's going to happen for real, because we're still going to do advertising this year. But we really want to pivot towards doing more advertising that is in the line of what the channel is about, and not so much just to get paid. So that's why this year that's coming is going to be also more about making it more sustainable and getting revenue coming in through the channel, and not just, you know, the commercial gigs that we've been doing so far. And what we did last year was also to hire an editor that's helped me edit the, I guess, past, I don't know, 10 or so episodes or something like that we've been doing with tutorials and that sort of thing. And that's made it possible for us to step up to 3 videos a week, including this Q&A. But next year, or this year, it's gonna be a goal of ours in the beginning of the year is to get up to 5 times a week. And having an editor is really important to do that, because we still have a full-time job working with advertising. So we do that, we also do films, and we do this channel. It's a little bit much, but because we're We were 2, now we're 3 people. It makes it much easier to do it. But that also means that there needs to come in revenue from this channel in order for that to make sense, to have an editor, for instance. We also invested a lot of gear. Past year we invested in gear that can make it possible for us to get bigger clients, bigger commercial gigs, and also we invested in gear to have it for this channel and for the next film that we're making. So that was a big thing. It was a big investment getting the C300 Mark II. It was big investments in terms of lights and microphones, and I mean only this Sennheiser 416 we bought 2 for the new film. They're really expensive, but we felt like we needed to step up in order to compete with the best that's out there. And what else? Let me see. Yeah, I guess that's the past year. So that brings us into this year, which is quite awesome, I think, because the past year we've been working hard, behind the scenes. A lot of stuff that is coming now for the next year is stuff that we worked on the past year. For instance, we started shooting all our commercials we shot behind the scenes for. We had a separate camera operator just shooting behind the scenes in order to make web series and all that stuff about those episodes. So basically what we want to do this year is start to show a deep behind the scenes type of encounter of what it's like working in advertising. That means anything from meetings to actually being on set, and it means bringing you firsthand into what we do, pretty much. And we can't bring you on everything, and we can't show you everything in terms of like clients, and it's a lot of sensitivity and all that. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do, which is going to be pretty awesome, I think, and I think you will like it too. But that's also how we thought about the new film as well. So we hired behind the scenes photographer and fixer, pretty much researcher fixer, for the stuff that we shoot. So we want to combine having a person that can shoot behind the scenes while we shoot the documentary, as well as be helpful in terms of organizing stuff, and that's been really crucial for us to kind of combine the channel to what we do, the feature films. So we went to Lofoten, where one of the characters is based that we're following, and we actually had a behind the scenes coverage of that whole trip, all of it, just shooting everything from going around, hanging around, just doing nothing, to shooting on a boat out in the ocean. So that's going to be quite awesome, I think, to show. But I showed on an earlier live stream about the web series that we're releasing, which we're calling The Confused African. That's basically a series that I shot while I shot The Pearl of Africa. A friend of mine that I stayed with, I just was filming him while we were hanging around, just doing nothing basically. But that ended up being a web series that could as well been our next feature film. But now that's gonna come out as well, so that's gonna be really awesome, I think, to finally release that one. The trailer is gonna come out now in January. We're probably gonna wait 2 weeks because Andre is away in Thailand sunbathing, so we need to kind of focus that release of the trailer with a lot of PR and stuff, so that's why it's gonna be delayed to the mid to end of January. And then after that, the series will come out, but we're still gonna let it build a little bit with the trailer and then see how much it has to build before we release the web series. And what else? So the 5 times a week, for instance, that's a big change, I think, because it wasn't that long ago that we only did once a week. But because we hired an editor that's working on this and also helps out on the advertising stuff, that makes that possible. So there's going to be a Q&A once a week, and then there's going to be much more like tutorials, I guess 2 times a week. There's going to be short films. There is going to be a series about the new film. There is going to be a series about advertising. And what else? Like behind the scenes in general, I guess. Like vlogging type of stuff. But I guess the tutorial part and the Q&A will be as it is today. And then we're going to do shorts sometimes. And then the web series, of course, with the Confused African is going to be one thing. But there is also going to be a secret series because all YouTubers have their secret projects. So the new film isn't a secret, it's official. There is a new film coming, but there is also a secret web series. Hopefully summertime-ish, maybe. I don't know. We're working on it. Clues could be a bus. Who knows? But then some people have asked also to get this Q&A, but I guess also tutorials as a podcast. So we're looking into that. How do we do it? How do we do it in the easiest way that we don't have to do so much work to put into it? Because building a podcasting channel and all that will take a lot of time. But let us know what type of content would you like in a podcast, and would you listen to it or would you watch the YouTube channel? What do you prefer? And then this is something that we've talked about. I mentioned it a couple of times, but we've been working on one course basically that we will sell for a reasonable amount of money to start getting revenue into this channel, for instance. This is going to be an in-depth course. So what we're thinking of is basically doing courses during the year. I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 courses. What would you like those to be about? Like one of them is already pretty much done. We just need to finish up the whole editing and all that, but it's gonna be how to sell your film to Netflix, and it's gonna go through all these stages of how you sell your film to Netflix. Like what do you have to think about in the pre-production stages, what do you have to do later, and I mean how do you sell it, how do you get in touch with the right people. It's gonna include like a whole crash course of how to do it and what mistakes we made and what you shouldn't do and all that. So that's also a thing that you should think about, like how would you want it to be, like what type of courses would you like. I guess grading could be one, so let us know what type of courses and yeah, how long do you want them to be. And then I guess the last thing might be then to do more collabs. I guess that's a big thing that we need to focus on in order to grow, because we pretty much want to grow this channel to maybe, I don't know, I want to grow it bigger, but 150k this year would be reasonable, I think. But I think this year we 10x'd, you know, we had 4k when we started and now we're around 40k, and I think we should 10x this year, but maybe that's not a reasonable goal. So we put it around, I guess, 150, but I would still think that we can 10x this year if we do everything right, and especially if we go up. Image and sound is not in sync. Okay, so give me 1 second and I will restart, because I think that will fix it. Because it shouldn't be. Usually this works perfectly. At least it did before the internet started to act up on me today. Let me just make sure. Yeah, drive is off. Okay, let me restart. Okay, so let me know if this fixed it, because now I am speaking. Hopefully it fixed it. I'll keep speaking then so that you know if it works or not. So let me just get these questions going while I get your answer. No sound at some points, so it drops out. That's kind of weird. Why is that? Is it still no sound? Let me know if it's still no sound, because then it's weird, but otherwise it was just because I restarted. So just to make sure, thumbs up if it works, otherwise I'll need to solve it. Okay, so let me just get to the first question. Okay, John Lexter. Hey, since I'm a student and barely have no budget, what cheap LED light or LED? LED light is what we call it in Sweden. Do you recommend under $1,000? $1,000. I wonder what the 1x1 travel light is. Travel 1x1. Let me see. No sound, no sync, and stop. Bad. Helvete. Starting. Okay, we should be back. So, first question, let me get back to that one. LED light for $100, I think it was. Yes, it was. So let me see. Because I really like these Traver lights. You have a Traver 1x1. No, this is not it. You have a Traver 1x1. I have the wider one up there. Do I have another one? No, maybe not. Otherwise I could show it. But let me see. I just need to find a price for it. Traver Flex. Is that what it's called? Or is it Trevor? No, it should be Trevor. It's also called Aladdin, right? Yeah, Aladdin. Trevor LED light. Okay, there we go. Do they only have the wide one? Maybe they do. No, here we go. Okay. So, how much is this one? Now this is AliExpress, so that might be wrong. Okay, so a little bit above. But this is actually a good light. I need to hide because otherwise I'll be focused. So the Traver light, I use this one. Instead of, I have a Flex, Westcott Flex light, which is the expensive version of this one. So it's not $100, it's 116. But that's a really good, cheap LED light. That is dimmable, I guess, also. So that's the one you should get, probably. It will fit in a backpack if you want it. It's as flat as this screen here. So not really an issue to squeeze it in somewhere. And you can use that with batteries or anything. So let me know if the sync is alright. It usually fixes it by restarting. So hopefully it's good, maybe. Okay, so Chucky. In communicating your vision ID, either through treatment or just in general, do you have any specific approaches to communicating your vision? Do you focus a lot on selling the ID? Yeah, you really have to sell the ID. You have to make a treatment that is everything that you want whoever reads it to take away. Like the emotions you want them to have watching the film and all those things, they should be in the treatment. And that's why you use images and all those things. But it's also about how you write it. So for instance, let me just get a treatment up here and I can just show you. Let me get some old treatment. Bookbeat. That's an old one. No, Dream Trip. Maybe that's better. Okay, this is English, so maybe this was better even. Okay, so first you have a page which is like the front page. Now this logo here is missing, but first you have maybe some kind of mood that kind of envisions what you want to do. So for this one we are doing a car commercial, basically stories about certain people. So then this one was focused around that, the main page, and then whatever the text is saying. And then there's an agenda in the meeting itself, but we don't have to talk about that because that's quite obvious. But then you have the ID, and then you have to kind of make that clear. So with a short text, I'll just read it, it's easier. Through unique and personal stories, capture the value of driving a Saab. That's basically it. And then style and feeling, then it's basically a poetic and emotional exploration that highlights the nature and the role that the cars play in people's lives. Tactile moments are captured as we move with people through their journey. A personal story told in beautiful landscapes and how they interact with the places they experience while they're on the road. So it's basically a road movie type of feel. And then you have some images showing whatever you envision, like so, like a mood board type of thing, trying to capture your idea as epic as it could be. And then you have the treatment, which is basically a storyboarded idea of what you want to do. So try to break your whole idea into storyboard. And then, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes after that, but that's basically what it is in our treatments when it comes to selling the idea. But then you also have like talk about music, talk about the casting process, how are you going to cast it, who are you going to cast, the locations, images of the persons, like the casting and the locations to show that. Those are the most important parts, I'd say. But there's a lot of stuff depending on the project that comes up. But that can vary a lot what it is and all that. Okay, John Lexter. Should I spend my money on equipment instead of film school? You could go to film school and borrow equipment too. That's one option. I'd say I guess hard to invest and to make money back in the beginning. Because basically what I did was have basically a camera, small tiny kit. I have a 5D Mark II in the beginning and I had a 50mm lens. That was pretty much it, I think. Yeah, and then I had audio too. So I had a Sennheiser G3 system and I had like a juiced link thing that you put on the camera and then got XLR cables. That's basically how I worked for many, many, many years. And that's how I made money to buy more equipment. So basically you could just go work and you could earn, say, 4K US dollars or euros. Euros is better. No, it's not. Is it? No, it's probably the same. So what you could do was save up like 4K to 5K, buy equipment, start working, and only use that. Don't buy more than that. That's too expensive. So make sure that you earn a lot of money before you start buying gear. First, make sure you save up money for maybe a year's salary. That would be, good. If you want to do good things, it's much better to have that saved up. So that's one way that you can start your career and to pivot into what you want to do. In the beginning, you probably have to take everything you get offered maybe. But then once you have money saved up, it doesn't have to be a year. It could be 6 months. But then when you have that, it's easier to pivot to say no to things. And that's what I would do if I'd had that chance. Now this stream thing is saying on and off, no stream, like no connection, good, no, good. That's because it's 4G and that is pretty shitty. So if it stops to act up now again, it is because of that. Yeah, I guess that's how you could do it if you wanted to skip school. But I've seen so many people. I even think David Dobrik is, or he did at least, study, or he at least lived in the dorms in LA. So I'd say the way that a lot of film students do it today is that they study while they do the YouTube shit. Like they build their channel pretty much while they're in school. That is also one way of doing it. I think that there's so many talented YouTubers out there. For instance, probably my favorite YouTuber can be a little bit, up and down, but he's still my favorite YouTuber, and that's Justin Escalona. He's probably the one that I feel has his own style. One of the few that has his own style that I like also. But what he's doing is pretty much basing his life in film school around, whatever he does. It's a bro-y type of environment that he is living in. So that's what the vlogs are. But I really like that he bases it off, whatever he does, and that is so personal and true to what he wants to do. So I think if you do that, then film school can be great. He built his channel to soon 300K. He's doing film school, doing his films, living off of YouTube and, studying. He can do it. Anybody can do it. So I think it's not bad to go to school, but you should have a mission while you're there. You shouldn't just go there and think that, school will solve your issues of getting a job. Nothing will solve that. You have to do yourself, you have to work for it. Okay, so next one. Mario Saliassi. May have slaughtered that last name. Hey Johnny, trying to get into the industry, but was wondering what would be your advice on finding stories. Is this something you find personally, or do you have people who give you work? I'm not sure if it's... I guess it's doc commercial based. Let me see, here's a follow-up one. To add, should I start as a runner in a production company or just keep shooting my IDs? With that comes the difficulty of focusing on coming up with an ID as well as production. Okay, so now I get it. Basically, I think that anybody that wants to get into filmmaking and that doesn't have an idea why they're going to school, they should probably assist instead. Be a runner, be a camera assistant, be a gaffer assistant, whatever you can be. Like, be close to whatever you want to do. So if you want to do the production, be close to that side of the production. If you want to be close to the camera, be close to the gaffer and that sort of thing. Learn to light things and all that. There's a lot of stuff that you can do instead of, just working on your own stuff. The reason why I think that you should assist is because you build a network and you learn from other people. So then still go out and do your stuff, but really focus on collaborating with other people, because you will advance much quicker. Like, your talent will advance quicker and your career will advance quicker if you do that. I think that's a much more effective way of doing it. And I think, in general, it's really hard to make it as a filmmaker if you don't have any connections. So if you focus on that, then eventually when you're ready as a filmmaker, talent-wise and all that, then you're gonna get the opportunities just because they know that you can do stuff. But it's really hard to chase after the work. Chances are that you're gonna get, shitty work chasing that, and focus on building a portfolio and a network. Those two keys are really important if you want to make it, I think. And then it's not so much about equipment and that sort of thing, because you can borrow equipment. There's, places where you can borrow equipment. You can borrow from friends. You can collaborate. There's tons of ways of making films with no money. So if anybody has that excuse, they can't make a film, I think that's just bullshit, basically. Pick up a phone and make a film. I mean, look at Tangerine. I don't know if it was Oscar nominated, but it premiered at Sundance, was sold to Netflix, was a big deal. It was shot on an iPhone. Sure, talented DOP and all that, and a whole crew and all those things, but you can make a film with any gear today. It's not about the gear. So just start making stuff. Silas F, can I work for you? Where are you at, Silas? The confused signal man, is your grasshopper pregnant? Which grasshopper? My wife is pregnant though. March, very soon. Okay, so let me go down. Here's the audio stuff again. Okay, so Silas F. did you ever work with ACES in DaVinci Resolve? Just started correcting my S-Log footage with it. It's sounding... I've played a little bit with it, and I think it's really promising, but I haven't, switched totally yet. I should, but because I grade this in, the regular DaVinci Resolve color managed version, it's just too short time frames to switch. Otherwise I would have switched long ago if it was only for like commercial work, because that's not, it's not so harsh. The deadlines are pretty spread out. But with this, uploading every week, it's too short to learn a new workflow type of thing. So I think that's awesome that you've tried it. It seems to be really good, and I guess it's not that big of a difference, but ACES is what's in the future, I think. Definitely it's gonna change a lot in the future too, because it's probably gonna evolve, I guess. Like the whole DaVinci Resolve grading experience is probably gonna switch to that eventually. I'm guessing. I don't know. That's just a wild guess, but so better to be early than late. Let me just see if we had any questions on the last Q&A, so I don't forget them, because I forget them. Oh, why don't I get the just see in here then. Phone is always better. Here we go, Q&A. Yeah, there was somebody, let me see, Ross Adams, this would be great in a podcast. Spoke a little bit about that earlier, so let me know how you would like that podcast to work out, because we're thinking about it. Is there anything else you'd like to have in a podcast? Any wishes? Let us know. Let me see. Yeah, it was a funny thing about the lighting on, was it the last one that was better? It was just because I put a color grade on the Q&As. I usually don't because of workflow, but now I've figured out a way to do it which is a little bit quicker. It's usually been a bit slow in that sense. You upload the live video either automatically, which it does either way when you stream it, or you upload it afterwards. And I usually upload it afterwards nowadays because the audio sometimes screws up, like this live stream did. So then the easiest way is basically to just upload it separately. I've found. I don't know, maybe some people think it's better to do in a different way. Usually I think that's the easiest way. Yeah, but that, I think that was the only ones on that one. Let me see. Yeah, okay, so this one. Do you have something new to show today, like a rough cut from the African series? Not yet, but I wonder how we would do it. What would be your suggestions to how to kind of, what would we do? Because we have rough cuts, for instance, and we're going to grade those and do the sound editing now. But how would you like to see, like, for instance, first episode? Would you like to see it, and what would you give us feedback on, and or what would you like us to talk about in that context? Let us know that too, because that could be one thing that we could explore. What's the best way to get financing for a film? Basically, my best way of getting financing for a film is basically to shoot as much as you can and always apply, go network to all the places, but also get a producer on board, like get an internationally acclaimed producer on board. Executive producer is probably what you're looking for, because that's a way in terms of getting the doors to open up, getting people to notice you, getting people to introduce you to other people. That's a really important part of it, I think. I think that if you just go out and you try to hit the markets and all those things, it's really hard to get any people to care, like to get any channel to buy your film or anything like that. You basically need to generate some kind of leverage for yourself. It could be a crowdfunding campaign, it could be an audience building thing like we do here, where you focus it around your filmmaking. It could be you having a famous name attached to the film, like a big biography or anything like that. Those things sell, so you really need to think about those things in the ID stage, because it matters. And you also need to have a topic that is sellable and that's timeless. So for instance, once an issue like Syria, for instance, happens, the year that happens, there's so many films. So it's all about being the first to market, basically, because anybody can sell that film pretty much. It just has to be decent and it would get the hype and people would just buy it and put it out there. So it doesn't even have to be all that great. And then there comes a phase where nobody buys that types of films because they've already bought a lot of them. So what you need to find then is the unique deepening angle of that story and then try to sell that. But it's much harder to sell at that point because there is not a buzz around the topic. So those things are also an issue if you do like current affairs type of stories. So those things are really connected to how to sell a film. Like the best way to sell a film is to create a project that's sellable. Another way to think about it is having a great trailer first and then trying to get into the markets. But you can't pretty much get into the markets if you don't have your own home country on board. So for instance, for me, it would be the Swedish Film Institute. You need to get your own film institute or a grants organization or something on board that supports your project. If you can get those and also a broadcaster from your country on board in the project in the early stages, that's going to make it possible for you to get to the markets. Because without that, they're not going to let your project in pretty much. If you're not maybe a famous name or something like that. Because they want projects that can just be bought, and they know from experience that people don't buy the projects that are, not at all funded. So maybe you'll need, I'd guess, around $100K US in the project already if you wanted to go the market route. And the way you get to 100K is to get executive producer on board. That helps a lot. It's also to get the funders on board early on, the broadcaster on board early on. If you can't get those, shoot your film and then get it into festivals and then sell it, because that's also possible. But there is a big gap in between there. So most people who make their films and haven't made a film before, they make the whole film and then they sell it. They don't make barely any money at all. So they probably go, bankrupt doing the film pretty much. So the next film they start off, behind and have to work their way back into it. Second film is easier, but it's probably not going to make any money. It's just going to go maybe even out. That's at least how we saw Pearl of Africa, for instance. But what you do get from making those projects is a calling card and a really strong, I guess, business card in terms of your next film and your career. So we get a lot of advertising stuff off of that. So don't see it as, important to sell just because of that. But getting into a festival is also really a great way to sell your film. So those are the two ways I see in terms of, financing a film. It's not straightforward, any of them. It's really like, you try to pitch to this one, you try to pitch to that one. Everybody says no. In the beginning, it seems like it's impossible. In the end, it seems like it's impossible. And then all of a sudden, things might change, or you finish the film and you don't have any funding. But I think the easiest way to get funding is probably the executive producer, because they have a track record, so it's easier to trust them with money. That's probably not the answer that anybody wants to hear in terms of, getting funded. But it is really important to think about, the other stuff that I think most people don't talk about, because funding a film, it's easy to say that you should just apply to Sundance Institute. I've applied so many times, I've never gotten a grant from them. The reason I don't still apply to them is because I just lost interest in all type of film funding. So basically, I only apply to the people that I know, because I have a track record with them. So it's not, it's something that I need to sell. It's basically, are you interested in doing this with us or not? That easy. Otherwise, we just continue making the film, funding it on our own and trying to make the money back in some way. That usually happens. I mean, you have to think about revenue streams in different ways if you can't sell your film. We think about it in different ways in terms of, okay, so courses. Can the courses that we make, let's say we make our film, the new film, can we make that film and then turn that film into courses that make money? Probably. That's how we see, different type of revenue streams. Can we use that film to kind of drive, sales in some different way that people aren't thinking about? Is crowdfunding, for instance, the only way to crowdfunding is basically throw money on a t-shirt? Probably not. You could probably do a more interactive give and take type of thing, where you have, for instance, maybe coaching sessions, or you have the courses included in those packages. So you have something that is, something that people want, and not just a crowdfunding campaign that is, you throwing money on a creator. That's nice too, but I don't think it's sustainable. It's just like a thing that works sometimes, I don't like that sometimes. It should be something that you build and it works, as a platform for your next project and the next one, and otherwise it's not sustainable. And you need to think about that. Okay, so let me see. I had a number here. Let me see, what time is it? Okay, 10 minutes. Okay. Let me see if I can get this number to work. Skype. Nope. Wrong country code. Is it? No, maybe not. it is. Okay. No, but I have the question here. Okay. Hey, just want to say you're my favorite creator on YouTube, and watching your success off of this platform inspired me a lot. Thank you. I'm looking for advice on how to get an investor to believe in me. This is actually kind of related then to the last one. I think getting your investors to believe in you is basically the biggest obstacle in funding your film. There's a couple of things that you can do. I think the main thing that you can do is build an audience. That's pretty much the thing that you can own yourself. Like the destiny of it is in your hands, basically. If you can prove that, you know, you have an audience that's interested in what you do, I think that it doesn't matter how experienced you are or anything like that. All that goes out the window with you proving that you have an audience. So let's say that's one way of doing it. I mean, there's 1,000 ways of doing just that, but that's one thing that everybody should focus on. And if you can do that, I think you're ahead of most people, because most people don't think about those things. That's one way. Another thing that most people have done forever is to have a track record. So if you can't do feature films, which is of course ideal to have done 3 feature films or something like that, you need to get your short films or anything like that into festivals, and you need to preferably make them win prizes. When you do that, you also build your network, you build, all those prizes that you get for a film. Even if it's a short film, it will probably get you in contact with whatever people fund films from your country that are at the festivals. They're probably gonna notice you, and you're gonna get introduced to a lot of people through the organizers and all that. But also if you get into festivals, work the organizers and tell them to introduce you, because they will introduce you if you ask. There is always like industry registers at the festival, so you can always try to find all the people that are there that you're interested in meeting, and then ask the organizers to introduce you. But I think the track record and the audience is probably the 2 key things that you can do yourself. And then on top of that, use your films to kind of build relationships to other filmmakers, and preferably like the end goal would be to get a executive producer on board, which is the biggest shortcut that you can get in the industry, is working with an established producer. Maybe you can't get an established producer to produce what you do, but you can probably get somebody through a friend or anything on board as a mentor or as an advisor or anything like that. That can help to open doors, and it can help to get a lot of, I guess, if you look at it as, getting an introduction, that's probably the best way to get an introduction to the funders. Get that through a producer that has worked with them before. That's the strongest recommendation you can get, I think. So if you can manage to do that, then you're probably pretty close to getting funded, because if you don't have a producer on board that they know will handle the money correctly, then it's probably going to be hard for you to get the money. But also look at distribution, for instance. If you can get distribution, a lot of people manage to get distribution just off of a script. And for instance, if you do fiction, you can get it off of just attaching the correct names to the film, for instance, the actors. If you get those big names and also a good script and whatever, names sell, then you can get a distributor on board. And if you have a distributor on board, that can also lead to other things like financing coming in. Usually that's how you do it. But the professional way that people make films is usually that they go out, they have this package put together. It could be, a script and then the names that are attached, for instance, the actors and all that. if it's a documentary, it can be like a rights to a book or something like that has, you know, an audience already because you look at that. And then you go out and you pretty much find a distributor that says that this can make this much money. Okay, so once you've done that, they've said that this film is worth this much. Then you go to the bank or whatever funders you have and you say, hey, this film can make this much money. But a lot of people that do it professionally, they borrow money to make their film and then they make that back. Because they do it in a sustainable way and they don't risk the money because they have, you know, down to every penny counted for, and then they get the financing in also and all that set. But it's not an easy way to make a living making films, especially in the beginning. I mean, some people have probably heard about Ruben Östlund, which is a Swedish film director. His first film was all made from a bank loan. And he came from Swedish film school and now he's making Hollywood movies. He's Oscar nominated probably this year. It was last year too. I mean, he's a big deal. But he actually banked his own film for the first one he made. And then that worked out. But that's how some people do it. I wouldn't recommend doing it. But it is a way to do it. I guess that's, yeah. The way is to just give it all and hope it works out. And once you do that, if you've thrown all your money into something, you are more eager to make it back. So either you lose everything or you work hard and gain it back. Okay, this is gonna be it for this week. Let me know in the comments if you want me to answer anything next week. Otherwise, I'm gonna be back. Still haven't figured out what episodes gonna come out this week, so stay tuned. But it's probably gonna be tutorials. Yeah, so bye bye.